The IFP is calling for the ANC and the DA to conclude negotiations around the terms of the Government of National Unity. 3 weeks after his inauguration, President Cyril Ramaphosa is yet to announce a cabinet. For more on this, I'm now joined by IFP leader Velenkosini Hlabisa. Mr. Hlabisa, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. Even as calm as you were and as you usually, I could sense a bit of frustration yesterday during that briefing. Am I correct?
Good afternoon, Vuyo, and the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. Vuyo, at a personal level, there is no frustration, but at a leadership level, the people of South Africa, it's almost a month now, went to elections, and they spoke out loud and clear that find common ground, work together, take the country forward. We cannot engage indefinitely. We need to reach a point where we agree that coalition is a give and take. It's not that I want it or nothing. The country, the next 5 years, we will be living this life. If we can't find a common ground now, we make the next 5 years going to be a difficult period for our people.
Here, of course, to someone who has had face-to-face and personal engagements with both the people whose letters were in the public domain this past week. Your sense of where things are and what exactly is going on between Cyril Ramaphosa and John Steenhuisen?
I will be very careful, Vuyo, because I am a political leader. We share a common space with Mr. Ramaphosa and Mr. Steenhuisen, and some of the discussion and engagement, I would prefer to keep them at a leadership level. All I can see or say, it is very likely that is a stumbling block between the two political parties. And really, the two political parties must come to a point as to, between these portfolios, what is important between the portfolio that is a bone of contention and the country. Can the country stand at a stalemate for too long because we are contesting, because at large is one portfolio, other issues would be minor issues that can be tackled as we go forward. Really, it is up to the leaders, because at the end of the day, the buck stops before them, that they must cross the line and say, let us get a win-win situation and get the country going. It's not something that is too difficult or they are too far apart, as far as I could say, and I can only comment up to that stage because I do want to respect that we are in an equal political space with the two leaders, so my comment will have to not cross a certain line.
Now, your party's treasurer yesterday spoke about, at that briefing, spoke about how this delay is going to affect the work of Parliament. Is that your only concern?
Well, Vuyo, on Tuesday, the Parliament is sitting. Committees has to be starting to function. Certain people have to be assigned to lead certain committees. You can't get to that stage unless you are clear who is deployed where at a cabinet level so that the Parliament can start its work knowing very well, even if there is a configuration in terms of cabinet, the announcement of the cabinet marks the start of work. You know, other provinces, as I indicated, KwaZulu-Natal, the provincial government is hitting the ground, the MECs are on the ground, They are now setting up portfolios because the Premier announced the cabinet. That is why the IFP is of the view that at the end of the day, the buck stops before the president of our country. At a certain point, he must take the country forward.
Do you get a sense that the two main players in your arrangement, the arrangement that you are part of, are in fact alive to that, to what you just said and described?
Yes, they are working overtime right around the clock. I know the engagements happening behind the closed doors, and they do have the sense that something is urgent and it must be done before really people lose patience and confidence in the government of national unity, because you need to agree so that people can say, these people will work together. Yes, there will be disagreement in a coalition, but the bottom line, in a coalition, you must find a compromise. You must get a win-win situation. You must not live in a stalemate for too long, because this will create doubt in how are you going to be working over the next 5 years. In terms of agency, I do see, they see the agency. That is why we are urging them that it is time that we finalize whatever stalemate is and let the country go and the parliament start to do its work.
How you are going to work together in the next 5 years being the operational phrase here. Do you believe that all of you went about this the right way? Because there's been criticism that you actually, went for what should have been the last consideration. In other words, cabinet positions and the like, when in fact you should have started with what that operational phrase. In other words, how are we going to, or can we work together over the next 5 years? That should have been the first conversation before you actually discussed about who could occupy what position at executive level.
Voyo, in my assessment, South Africa is more ready for a coalition government or a government of national unity than 1994. If you look at the leaders in the national parliament as well as provincial governments, we are all having an experience of working at a government level, which was not the case in most people in 1994. And some of us have undergone an extensive engagement in various countries of the world, looking at successful coalition government, Denmark, Germany, and a number of other countries, because we had long known that post-2024 elections, South Africa will be under a coalition government. I am very confident the framework that was done on broad principles was necessary to let the government kick off to elect the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and President. And the details that followed thereafter, we had sufficient time to do so. That is why the IFP indicated its wish list. And we know at the end of the day, it resides with the President to form the cabinet in terms of the Constitution. The bottom line in a coalition government, you must know, you need to find a common ground. And the voters told us so. They said, we can't give anyone a majority, work together, take our country forward. I am confident because we all have a positive attitude in taking our country forward, and we have accepted that we have landed in a coalition phase. We have to adapt to it. We have to make it work for our country. We have to be quick to learn fast from successful countries over 100 years in coalition government, how they managed it, how to manage coalition. Myself and other leaders have been part of an intensive study in these countries I've indicated before, with a long history as to how to maintain a lively coalition, a successful coalition. What are the principles? We all have it in front of us in order to make our country go forward.
You've said this, I mean, repeatedly, and so has Cyril Ramaphosa, and of course, numerous other people. But the reference to what happened in 1994, is it really a fair comparison? Because back then, there were different considerations given where we had just come from as a country, whereas now, 30 years later, you are actually being forced, as the ANC especially, because it doesn't enjoy a majority at all. Is it a fair comparison, really, to say, you know, just like we did back in 1994, we can do this?
Indeed, Vuyo. I belong in the group of people who are always positive about the future. I know there are people who don't believe in where we are as a country. Unfortunately, the voters put us here. Whether you believe it or you don't, all you need to do, adapt to it. The difference, Vuyo, in 1999, we were dictated by the Constitution. In 2024, we are dictated by people to work together. So now, to me, it is the same. The only thing that is different, it was prescribed in 1994. Now it is not prescribed, but dictated by the voters. All we have to do, get into the game, play it correctly in terms of what people want to see regarding our country going forward. A positive attitude is what will make it work. And anyone who will try to hold brakes in the coalition government will get a severe punishment in 2026 and 2029. But anyone who will take the country forward and show that he pulls or she pulls along with all people in the government of national unity, people will reward that political party that you are really listening to our call when you say work together, we'll give you more power in order to lead the process.
Now, in your conversations with the ANC, would you say there's an acknowledgement on their part that this time around the situation is different, that one, they didn't win an election, and two, as you say, as they too say, that the voters, the electorate has actually forced all of you to work together. Is there an acknowledgement of that fact from the conversations that you've had? In other words, something that goes beyond simply uttering those words. In their actions, in their attitude, is there that acknowledgement?
Yes, indeed, Vuyo. There is that acknowledgement. And Vuyo, some people were asking me this question before election, that do you see the ANC accepting results? I was always saying the ANC understands democracy, and they saw it during the local government elections in 2021. They never resisted the will of the people. And even now, the attitude they demonstrate, they are leading the process. It did not take weeks for them crying, but they immediately, when the results were out, they initiated the process to lead the coalition government. So I'm very confident, because if I were ANC, even myself, I will take the initiative of getting the country going and rebuild confidence to people, probably to give another support in the coming elections. So far, to me, they accepted it, and they are playing the game correctly to take the country forward, because they understood. People said, you work together, and they are actually doing that.
The National Party joined the ANC in the Government of National Unity as a senior partner. So did the IFP, of course. But then, not too long after that, the very same National Party died at the feet of the ANC. Aren't you worried that you may suffer the same fate, that it's a matter of time before that happens, by joining the ANC in a Government of National Unity?
Not at all, Vuyo. The IFP next year, 21 March, will be turning 50 years. We have seen the good and the bad. We have seen the split away from the IFP. We have seen the party going down, and we have seen the party gaining the momentum as it is today in an upward trajectory. And we enter into this Government of National Unity not for the first time. We entered, as you know, in 1994. We survived as we are existing today. And moreover, we have done our groundwork. We understand if you get into a coalition, two things happen. Is either you survive or you perish. We do understand very well that. And since the announcement of the results, you will see in a very short space of time, we will be restructuring even how the organization is going to work. Sometimes we'll be pulling out some members from the national parliament and provincial back to the office, because we know the danger of a coalition is either you survive or you perish, unless you put in place structures and systems that will work the party, grow the party while you are in a coalition government. If you do so, you have a chance of growing, because people will be making reference of how you perform at a government level, and at the same time did not neglect the party work. So now we have no fear. We are doing our groundwork, and we know the risks involved, and we are going to mitigate against them.
And I was asking that question because that's exactly what happened to you to your party in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where you're the biggest party back in 1994, but of course with not sufficient majority. But then thereafter you lost a lot of ground to the ANC until 2019, when the ANC then messed up, and then you gained. And right now you are leading the coalition government in KwaZulu-Natal, but on the back of a disastrous performance by the ANC, and of course with the help of other coalition partners.
Evoyo, there is something I've never shared with you in an interview, but I've shared with other people in the interview. The IFP in 2012 went to the drawing board and planned for 3 elections in a package: 2016, 2019, and 2021 in 2012. So now, whatever blunder you're referring to on the side of the ANC, that was a bonus to the IFP. But right from 2012, our strategic plan of how to bounce back, we checked it in 2014 elections, general elections, but we knew we won't see results quickly. Our target was 2016. If you can recall, in 2011, we won 2 municipalities, but in 2016, we came back with 13 municipalities in 2016. And in 2019, we became the official opposition in KwaZulu-Natal. It was not by chance, but it was the outcome of the 2012 planning. And right now, we are planning for 2026, 2029, and 2031. If you plan ahead, you never go wrong.